Reddit, what's an unknown fact that could save your life? Bad CPR is better than no, even if you're unskilled. You literally cannot make the person more dead, as being dead is what predicates CPR. If you have a puncture wound to the chest or abdomen, the first thing you should do is place a non-porous, think plastic bag, object over the wound. It will help prevent tension pneumothorax. A tourniquet is quite simple to put on and can save a life if there is no other option. Place close to the site or near, not on, a joint. Never remove a tourniquet once placed, as clots can travel to the brain and lungs. Also mark the time you put it on. If you're at an accident scene and have no medical training, something you can do is collect information and help calm victims. This is quite helpful as it assists the paramedics with triage and keeps potential injured persons' heart rates down. Alternatively, learn how to hold C-spine. If your car ever gets stuck on the train tracks, look for a sign on the crossing arms. This is the railway 911 and has a number to call to stop traffic as well as your exact location. If you've been cut deeply, pack gauze into the wound as tightly as possible, then hold pressure. If you are driving in inclement weather, pay attention to truckers. They are often warned ahead of time of wrecks and things due to their radios. Also, never drive in the rain without headlights. Rescuing a drowning person can be just as dangerous as drowning. That drowning person is completely panicked and has only one goal: get air down air pipe, and a desperate drownee will do anything to obtain it. That includes climbing on top of a perfectly able swimmer and submerging them underwater to get their own head above water. Know your limits. If you yourself are a poor swimmer or the water conditions aren't favorable, strong currents, rough waves, murky water, don't attempt rescue. Immediately contact emergency services and throw something that floats at the drowning person. If you do feel confident to perform rescue and the water conditions are favorable to your abilities, make sure you take something that floats with you so you can immediately hand it to the drowning person before they latch onto you. If they attempt to make a grab at you, immediately kick away. Feet should be pointing towards to the victim, and thrust the flotation aid at them. If they still attempt to grab at you, keep kicking away until they calm down or even pass out. Better only one person to rescue than two. Please do not try to punch, kick or attempt to knock out a drowning person. 1. You're trying to rescue someone in the water, as someone who is flailing around and panicked. 2. You are trying to get away from a drowning person. You don't want them near you in case they grab you and pull you under. If you are close enough to hit them, you are close enough for them to get you. Trying to punch a drowning person is completely outdated and not only further endangers the person you are trying to rescue, but puts you at risk as well. As current and trained lifeguards have already commented, if a drowning person grabs you, swim down further underwater until they release you. Remember, the only goal of a drowning person is to be able to breathe and stop water getting in their lungs. If you are pulling them underwater with you, that goal can't be achieved and they'll let go of you. If they do manage to grab you, won't let go and you can't kick away, go down. The last place someone who's struggling or drowning wants to go is deeper, so they will quickly let go. Part of rescue diver training, but equally applicable for saving a struggling swimmer if they won't let go. If you get kidnapped, try to leave as much traces of yourself behind as you can. For example, leave bits of clothing behind or scratch your arms a lot to leave dead skin behind. This way you increase your chances that a search dog could pick up your scent and find you. Just pee and spit on everything so they can bloodhound the crap out of your trail. This is a New Zealand specific one, but all emergency numbers work here. The official number is 111, but 999, 000, 911, etc. will all work. This is so that tourists can still reach emergency services easily. Does the IT crowd one work? If you smell a fish smell in your house, some people also report a urine-like smell. For no reason, 9 times out of 10 it means there's an electrical fire. Guy randomly smelled urine in my kitchen next to my stove last week and was so freaking confused. I'm so glad nothing happened, but now I know. The best defense against an aggressive bear is to get some sort of large object, like a large tree or car, and just keep moving around it, keeping it between you and the bear until they get bored and leave. Bears are way faster than people in straightaways but cannot maneuver around the object as quickly due to how big they are. Do not try and climb the tree. Just keep it between you and them. This is known as the squirrel defense. Now if there are two bears. I thought you meant grab an actual tree or car. Never give an unconscious diabetic insulin. Please. It's quite likely to kill them. If giving aspirin to someone having a heart attack, make sure they chew it. It works far faster that way. And keep it held in their mouth. Very important. Where I'm from, you chew for 30 seconds to a minute holding it in the mouth and then swallow. I'm not saying forever, just for a minute. Keep it in your mouth while chewing. I imagine it's to stop people chewing 3 times and swallowing. Drug users or alcoholics often use in the same places with the same people around the same time of day, so your body is conditioned to that, and when you are in these familiar situations your body is basically preparing for you to use drugs. When you switch up your normal routine, your tolerance is actually lower because your body wasn't triggered by your surroundings. This is important to consider to prevent people from overdosing by using a similar amount as normal in a situation where their tolerance wouldn't be the same. Situational specificity of tolerance effect. Set and setting play a huge role in druggery, your mindset and surroundings. I could smoke a joint in my living room and barely notice it, or I could smoke a pinch hit in public and end up hiding in a bathroom stall checking my credit score. If you either A. have a long-standing alcohol problem, B. show any signs of alcohol withdrawal when you go too long without drinking, do not attempt to quit drinking without medical assistance. Alcohol withdrawal can be fatal. And if you can't or don't want to use a rehab, ask your doctor to help you. They are more than happy to assist you tapering off and dry up safely. So many people don't know how dangerous alcohol is. My dad nearly died twice because he tried quitting by himself. If someone is stabbed or punctured by a sharp object, leave it inside. Do not, absolutely do not, try to pull it out. Leave the object in until help arrives. Pulling it out will only double the damage. The object can considerably reduce and stop the flow of blood by exerting pressure on the injured area. The moment you pull it out, blood flow is likely to increase. One of my genuine fears is that I'll be stabbed and the person with me will freak out, pull out the instrument weapon whilst I'm gasping for breath, and I'll bleed out. They'll be all sad and I could have lived. If you get caught in a rip current and dragged out towards sea, don't try to swim against it. Swim parallel to the beach till you get out of the current and then make your way to shore. Or better yet, if you see one narrow section of the water that's unusually still, as in there's a visible break in the middle of a wave, don't swim in it. Edit. The reason is that this is how you identify the rip current in the first place. I feel like I take seeing this online for granted. I see it all the time, but I just had a friend die on spring break by being caught out in the water, and I can't help but think he might still be alive if he knew how to better handle it. For those guessing where it happened, it's none of those locations: it's scary to think about how common it is. If you are being followed by someone, the best chance you have at deterring the person pursuing you is to turn around and yell firmly at them, "What do you want?" whilst getting the best description of their face. This will help people that are around you know where you are, whilst hopefully scaring the creep off, as they will most likely realize that you have seen their face and know that they are following you. To make sure someone is following you, take a few random turns, avoid alleyways and dark areas, try to get to populated spots, and if they are still there, go for gold. If someone's trying to kidnap you, your chance of survival drops by 50% once you get in a vehicle, and even more once you reach a destination. That whole waiting 48 hours to report someone missing is total BS. If someone is missing, especially a child, report it ASAP. Make sure your family knows, and it could save your life. I don't know about unknown, but I had a boss that used to be an Air Force Loadmaster firefighter. He taught me that nobody knows your medical details. If you're really worried about first responders EMTs knowing your medical conditions, you can get a bracelet tattoo of all your important details. They can't confirm you want a DNR or some other terminal procedure, but they can know your blood type or special medical condition with a fancy bracelet or tattoo. Don't waste space on the bracelet with your blood type. Without a proper typing done, no lab would issue that kind of blood for a patient, even a trauma patient. Regardless of what the bracelet says, we'll give the same O type to any traumas that come in, with antibodies and Rh pose or neg dependent on the age and gender of the patient. If someone is in a serious motorcycle, bicycle etc accident, do not remove their helmet. Only a trained professional should do this. They probably can't breathe. Yes, they probably can't do a lot of things, such as support the weight of their head because their spine is broken. Leave the helmet. Don't leave ice packs on wounds or swelling for more than 15 minutes at a time to avoid irreversible nerve damage. Hot packs are no more than 20 minutes at a time to avoid burns. Leave both off for 15-30 minutes. 2. Both Staying Alive and Another One Bites the Dust have the ideal rhythm to follow when performing chest compressions, CPR. It might not be a good idea to sing the second one out loud, though. There is a symptom that is a general feeling of something is wrong and I need help. If you ever have that feeling without being able to point out the reason, it's not just I have an ache or having a panic attack. Listen to it. I was at work and from one moment to the next decided I had to go home. So I did. It was a 2-hour trip with public transport and about an hour and I decided I had to go to the hospital, not home. So I did. Had multiple pulmonary thromboses but no symptoms at all except for that one. In the hospital for 10 days, on anticoagulants ever since. Listening to my weird body signals saved my life. Pro tip: don't follow this tip if you have a generalized anxiety disorder. If you're ever underwater and can't tell which way is up, knocked around by a wave, just blow a few bubbles out as they always go up. Similar concept if you're in an avalanche and you're completely covered with snow, spit, and start climbing in the opposite direction it falls. Not for people but still, raisins, grapes and avocados are just as bad if not worse for dogs than chocolate. I did not learn this until 6 months after I got my first puppy. Dude IDK, we used to have an avocado tree in our front yard when I was a kid, and a black lab. We could not stop eating those things. After a while we gave up trying. He lived to 13 and was the fattest freaking dog you have ever seen. I saw on a popular talk show once that a guy known for self-defense and such teaches it had an epiphany after watching a toddler throw a tantrum to get candy, and then he wrapped himself around a pole of some sort. He said he watched the grown but adult mom could not get her child off, and it was very noticing for the public that something strange was going on. So he says he then taught that you can try to wrap yourself around any convenient pole or similar structure. You can wrap yourself around the legs of a kidnapper, on the street. He says you can be forced into a van or vehicle quite quickly, unnoticeable. But this behavior is noticeable, with screaming or fussing, and damn impossible to get you off. Even just being dead weight can be useful. Let all of your body go limp. Maybe not your own life but someone else's. If you are with someone who is experiencing diabetic shock, do not give them more insulin. Please give them sugar. Ignore everything you hear about diabetics not being able to have sugar. This is the moment they need it. I'm amazed at how many people do not know this. Even people with loved ones that are diabetic. If you see a motorcycle crash, don't remove the helmet and don't let the injured person remove it himself herself, since it might be the only thing holding the neck together. Paramedics should be the ones removing it. The headrest of most car seats comes off and the metal points on the end can be used to break out the car windows if necessary. Do not actually try to suck out venom from a snake bite. People having seizures cannot swallow their tongue. Do not put anything in their mouth. You can survive for 3 minutes without air or in icy water. Survive for 3 hours without shelter in a harsh environment unless in icy water. Survive for 3 days without water, if sheltered from a harsh environment. Survive for 3 weeks without food, if you have water and shelter. Take everything here with a grain of salt. Most people here are not medical experts. Double check all of these. Mixing bleach and ammonia creates chloramine vapor, a respiratory irritant that's even worse for dogs. That can break down into hydrazine, which is also toxic, but also highly flammable and even explosive. You might think this is as easy as not mixing what's in the bottle marked bleach with what's in the bottle marked ammonia, but both chemicals are in many cleaning products, and it's easy to accidentally mix them by not checking labels. Use one product at a time, and rinse in between. And don't try to get MacGyver with this knowledge, unless you'd like a grand tour of hospitals and police stations. That's why you shouldn't pee in the toilet if there is bleach in it. If you're in Europe and in a situation where you need to contact help, police, ambulance, etc., but cannot, hostage situation, active shooter, and don't want to make noise so that you are not found out, instead of calling 112, just type a text message with all the info needed to pass to authorities and send it to 114. That is the emergency number for people with speech or hearing impeachment. If you're going to pass out drunk, be sure to do it on your side so you don't drown in your own vomit. Anyone interested should Google recovery position. It also doesn't apply just to drunk people but anyone not in control of their body that could vomit. Also don't do it on the middle of the road. That's just asking for trouble. If you are in a position where a shooter is aiming at you, run in diagonal lines. This lowers your chances by half of getting shot. Unless the shooter is very trained, it is very difficult to shoot a moving target. If only Rickon knew this. Don't move someone with a back spine injury, it can damage them more. Unless it's a hazardous location. If you think someone has heat stroke, give them a jelly bean or something sweet. If they think it tastes terrible, they have heat stroke, and you need to get them to cool down immediately. Source: thought my boss was trying to poison me and very nearly punched him with him when I had heat stroke. Irritability and headaches are another sign. This doesn't work with black jelly beans, which taste terrible anyways. If your condom breaks or you go raw for some reason, maybe too much alcohol, and you suspect that person of being HIV positive, maybe they screw around a lot, you can go to the hospital as soon as possible, preferably no later than the next morning, and you should be able to get medication that prevents the infection from taking off. You shouldn't use it to be irresponsible though. Plus the medication has side effects. You might feel like crap when talking it. Which gender can contact it more easily? It doesn't really matter. It's a horrible thing regardless of what you have in your pants. Plus not everyone gets it though. Physical intimacy. I myself suspect I got it from the hospital during a surgery, as I haven't had any physical partners other than my boyfriend for years and he is to this day healthy, and so was I at the beginning of the relationship. My sister had to take these meds for a while. She was accidentally stabbed by a needle when cleaning a hospital. The side effects of these drugs are no joke, and the drugs are expensive as frick. It is a myth that people outgrow asthma. While some people might become asymptomatic as they get older, the potential for asthma remains. Always carry an inhaler and keep the prescription up to date even if you have not had symptoms for years. Gentlemen, if you usually wake up with morning wood and that stops happening, get your heart checked out. It's one of the first signs of heart problems in men, male-bodied people. Don't pull the knife out or whatever has impaled you. It's the one that's standing between you and bleeding out. When performing CPR you will break their ribs. This is normal and means you are compressing properly. Rarely does this spot happen. Die or deal with a few broken ribs. You choose. When in doubt, take a CPR course. They are short, cheap to free, and well worth the time and effort. If you for some reason need to touch something with an electrical current running through it, touch it with the back of your hand. If the voltage is high enough it can cause muscles to involuntarily constrict. If you are testing it with the front of your hand it could cause you to grab it and not let go. Well, this actually makes sense and is great advice. Particularly for folks that like to muck about in abandoned buildings or tunnels. Do not enter sealed areas without air quality gear. Giant steel containers, underground concrete rooms and corridors, etc. can accumulate non-breathable gases. You literally won't know what's happening before you're unconscious. If you're ever bit by a venomous snake, don't tie a tourniquet above the bite. You need a wide compression bandage around the wound sites to slow the venom's progression. I'm allergic to shellfish. In the case of the general public, learn people's allergies. If you are a very heavy drinker, especially if you drink every day, please be honest about your alcohol consumption when talking to healthcare professionals. It's not uncommon for someone to get admitted to hospital and thus be unable to drink, and then a few days later start hallucinating and having seizures because no one realized that they were alcohol dependent. Alcohol withdrawal can kill you. It's fairly easy to prevent it with medication, but when you're in full-blown delirium tremens it's difficult to treat. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. Like and subscribe you magnificent person.